So we are live again, and this time we are doing something a little bit different. We are talking to moms and all those individuals who are helping our little bitties switch over from classroom to online learning, and it has been quite a challenge. I
Mhm.
have a college student, and we are still struggling. There's always something new every day, and we work through it. But then we have moms who have little bitties that are getting ready to finish up their school year. We're going into May. So for the people in the Midwest, school ends at the end of May. I don't know how that's going to look. Debbie's in North Carolina. I know that's going to be different for her, and her kiddos go to school year round, which is different. So we'll talk about that as well to see how that looks for them. But everybody that can, oh, before we even do that, let me give a shout out to Crystal, who is working. She said she wanted to participate or even listen, but she's on multiple calls and Zoom meetings and all of that. So we're giving our Tribe for Life sister, Crystal Brown, a shout out and wishing she was here. But we understand that somebody's got to be doing all those meetings, and thank God it's not me today. So I'm going to let everybody go through. If you're able, Ramonda's on here and she's working, so she's listening and she's muted. So we're not going to expect her to say anything. But the rest of you ladies, Toya's at the stove, so we're going to skip her for now. So Jaleesa, Debbie, you're already unmuted. So do you want to start and tell us where you are, how many little bitties you have, and explain that whole year-round school thing and how they've started transitioning?
I'm Debbie Davis. I am a nurse faculty here in Durham, North Carolina. I have two children that are currently in elementary school, as well as two children that is in college. My little ones attend a year-round school calendar, which means they go to school from July until June. And every 9 weeks, they get a 3-week intercession period, and then they have a 6-week summer break. So for them, they were actually on their intercession when our stay at home order came and when they closed the school. So they had a week prior to their intercession that they closed school down. So they didn't initially started out having to do online work or things of that nature because they were on their intercession. But when intercession ended, they went back to an online setting where their teacher posted weekly lesson plans with activities for them to do, which consisted of videos and online work such as Lexia, Dreambox, things of that nature, where they were required to do reading and math activities. At this point, they are saying their end of year grade will be based on their first and second 9-week grading. So all of this online work that they're doing now is not counting for grade, is not punitive against them if they don't do it. However, of course, highly encouraged. So for us, it initially was a struggle because I was waking them both up at 9 a.m. and like, this is your school day from 9 to 4, so no electronics. You're just going to have to do the schoolwork type thing. But that did not work out very well for us because we only have one main computer at home that allowed them access to all of the things that they have to do. So I started a rotating schedule. So every other day, someone gets up at 9. So like, today is my son's day to get up at 9, which he's reluctant because I think all of them were up to like 5 o'clock this morning because my oldest came home. And so they're like, I'm like, you guys having for a girl powwow 3 o'clock in the morning? I'm gonna need y'all to go to bed. But so they so typically every other day someone gets up early at 9 so that one gets to sleep in late. So it's not like they're both just sitting there kind of waiting for their computer time. But it's been challenging for them because like even yesterday, my 11-year-old, she kind of just had finally had her moment where it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't like this online learning, missing their friends and not having interactions and like Zoom meetings, because for her, she'll get on Zoom with her teachers, but she doesn't do video. So she's on there and they're like, well, maybe next week you'll share your face. And she'll be like, maybe, that type of stuff. But so it really has just been a challenge in that just trying to enforce it all, because I'm still working from home. And unfortunately for me, that has been more work than like I anticipated. Not everyone is technologically savvy, so sometimes that can be make work a little stressful for others. But so that's how we're managing. They don't necessarily ask to go outside. And it finally hit me why, because I realized that they're afraid of dying, because on the news and in the media, all you hear about is COVID-19 deaths. You don't really hear a lot about the recoveries and the healing that can occur from COVID. And so my daughter was just kind of like, wait, like somebody actually lived from that, somebody that lived. And that just made me started thinking like, okay, you guys have been in this house for 5 weeks and they don't ask to go outside. They don't ask to go anywhere. Like, why? And when she said that, I'm like, okay, that's why. Because you think that you're going to walk outside, you're going to catch COVID-19 and you're going to die. Like, no, it's a virus. Just explaining that process to them and letting them know that, as with any virus, such as the cold, such as with the regular flu, you get it. It works its course. Hopefully, your immune system is strong enough and intact enough that you're able to survive. But unfortunately, there are those that where their immune system is just not as weak, or they have other health issues that make them more compromised and they're less likely to survive the COVID virus. So I think that's where my role as a nurse and an educator kind of benefited us, because I could explain it not just from someone with layman's term and just say, oh, you know what I mean? Like just pass it off. Just kind of explain to them, just like you get a cold and you feel horrible when you get a cold, you do eventually recover and you feel well. And the same thing can happen with COVID. It just has to work its course. And hopefully your immune system is strong enough that it can bring you through.
Thank you, ma'am. We are now going to switch over to Miss Jaleesa, who has her two littles there with her, and I would love to hear who they are, how old they are, and how school is going for them.
Hello, I'm Jaleesa. This is Jada. She is 7. This is Justice. How are you? She's 4 and she's acting shy. Um, I'm in a kind of a I'm in a blessed situation because I actually have 2 jobs. I work overnight for K&I, and I'm also a bus para for 501. And fortunate enough, we still get our paychecks, our normal paychecks from 501. This homeschooling thing has definitely been a challenge, mainly with this little character here. Luckily enough, she only has, with her being in preschool, she only has 30 minutes a day where they have group time to see all their friends. They do the basic sing-alongs and making sure they're still doing their numbers and their writing. Jada's schedule is a little more complicated. It was complicated when they were actually in school because they actually have schedules kind of like middle school and high school kids do, where they had electives like Spanish, PE, art, music, and having to go to the different classrooms. And so with that, they changed the schedule about 5 or 6 times before they finally got it like, hey, let's do it this way. The first couple of weeks with it, she's excited, oh, I don't have to get up, I'm home. It was okay. But I think the reality of not physically being there with her friends really impacted her. And go ahead, you can talk.
That's because when the coronavirus goes away, we could probably go back to school.
Let's hope so. But yeah, trying to find a routine and a balance. Even still, school's out in about 3 weeks, and we're still just like winging it. Like, okay, you have class at this time of this day. We're going to log you on, get with your class, and then from there, it's like her teacher's like, well, the worksheets, they're not being really counted. We're just wanting to make sure, as long as when they do their testing, that they know enough to get past the second grade. And as far as I know, they haven't really discussed with us whether or not how grading is going to work. But as far as I know, she's still doing well on her test. She's finally, thank you, Jesus, getting along with math. So looks like we'll have a second grader in about 3 weeks, but it's definitely been rough.
That's pretty cool. So I have heard from some of my clients who are middle schoolers that are struggling with math that basically your grades for third quarter are going to be your final grades, unless the work that you're doing now improves your grade. They're not going to lower anybody's grade, but if you work and you prove that you are capable of increasing it, they will allow you to do that. So that's beneficial, but I'm inclined to agree with you that it's been a really big struggle to transition to home and learning on the computer and everything, because I think that we as adults overthought this whole process. Um, when in Kansas, the stay at home happened literally the last day of spring break, and all of the colleges and the high schools were on spring break at the same time. So Tavian was home, and we got the message, he got the email, and he realizes that he is going to online learning. And I thought to myself, this should be a no-brainer because you have the schedule. You all have a schedule right now. And it didn't work that way. A lot of his professors decided to rearrange the lecture schedule and all of that. And he has a lecture, lab, and an exam. So there's 3 different components to a class. And they rearranged that. And to me, it didn't make sense when you already had a time set that if you were on campus, you were going to be in the classroom at this time, you were going to be in the lab at this time, you're going to be in the exam room at this time. It's not broke. That same schedule should have worked for you on campus as it does online, but that's not what happened. And so he had a lot of anxiety about not being able to make some sessions, wondering if they were going to record some sessions and provide the link. Could he ask questions? Could he review whatever they did if he was in another class and all of that? And so I think he's getting to the point now. He's very schedule driven, so we had to get him to the point where he remembered that he controls his schedule, and so he doesn't need to freak out about what's happening and what's not happening for him. I know that K-State did send out a message offering students the opportunity to take classes pass fail, and they can all sign up for pass fail for all of their classes. And then after they finish the class, if their grade is good enough and they want it on their transcript, they have to submit a form, and then they would change the grade, and which I think is great. I think that would be perfect. I asked Tavian, I explained it to him, asked if he had any questions or anything, and he said that he did not want to do that. His grades, I'm just being mama, I'm just making sure he has what he needs. And so he decided that that's what he wanted to do. He's going to take his classes for grades, and he's not going to worry about the pass fail stuff. He's just going to do what he does. So that's the way it is for him. So now we've got Toya finally sitting down. She's cooking. So can I unmute you and ask you, there we go. How do you feel like your college students have transitioned from classroom classes, moving off campus, the whole 9?
So I have a son who's a senior in Emporia. I think he kind of likes the whole, just from listening to him, he's able to, you know, do his classes as he can, but he's got a job where he can work more. And he was a cheerleader, or a yell leader, so that kind of put a hindrance and limited the amount of work he could do. He did say that he likes being able to talk to the professors and being face to face. So I think that's probably one of the main things that he doesn't like about it. But he's, I think he's adjusting okay with it. I have two girls. One is Lord, is she a junior at Washburn? Tony's? Tara, you're muted. Why?
She's a sophomore.
Oh yeah. And then I have freshman. My freshman, I think she's probably missing the fellowship with her Young Life friends, and just being able to not be stuck at home. And I sit and I listen to her. She's actually had me help her with some of her assignments. We actually are working on one probably when I get off here. But I think she just misses that environment. And now it's like, I'm just stuck at home. I don't have anything to do. They are actually still paying the students who are doing work study, which is a positive, because she is, I think, is kind of nervous about the idea of getting out and working, you know, with this whole thing going around and not knowing, you know, if I can catch it or, you know, whatever. My sophomore, one of the things I did hear her talking about, she's kind of upset. It's also limiting their activities. I mentioned Young Life. They both are like counselors or work crew or whatever with that camp. And it's kind of up in the air. It sounds like it's canceled. I know Tanuel was going for like a week. It sounds like hers is canceled. Tonice was going to be there for the whole summer. And she is determined she's going to Young Life camp. I'm like, you might be on the grounds by yourself, you know, but I don't see this happening. But she was taking a test for one of her classes, and I think it was over a movie that they probably watched like well before spring break. And she said she commented on Facebook or Instagram something about she didn't feel like the professor should give them a time test, because the stuff that they're testing on, you know, she didn't remember even seeing the movie, I guess. And I told her, you know, I think you should be able to communicate that to them and, you know, tell them, you know, I'm not understanding it. She says she kind of feels like because they're online that they're teaching themselves. They don't have the face-to-face that they have with their instructors being in the classroom. I asked her, you know, how the teacher reaches out to assist them when they're not understanding the subjects and whatever it is that they're doing. She said they do get that, but then she went on to tell me, you know, this movie that they quiz us on is something I don't even remember when we watched it. And I just feel like they shouldn't have timed us. And so one of the professors saw this post and actually kind of just put it out there where he asked the other professors about it and told them, you know, if you guys feel like, you know, this is too much or you're having some challenges with the way the class is going, talk to your professor, you know, or whatnot. So it's kind of like he was kind of trying to advocate for them. And I just told her, you know, don't turn it into a worse situation than it is. You just have to communicate, because everybody is having, you know, a hard time with it. The teachers, you know, not doing this online thing, you know, or just some of them, the fact that they, you know, or out of work, or, you know, whatever the case may be. I'm working from home because my husband is one of the immune compromised people, and he works from home. So I figured if he is home, I need to be home. That way I'm not risking him. The idea of it, it's okay. We've had a bunch of issues tech-wise, from the phones dropping calls to, I don't know, everything has been awful, to where I almost want to just go back into the office, but I know that's not really the best thing to do. So I kind of just gave y'all a mouthful, probably more than you needed, but
Actually,
overall,
no.
overall, I think they're adjusting better than I expected they would. You know, I thought they would be excited that they were not in school anymore, but no, they want to be there and learning and finishing. And like even cheer, Tonice is trying out for cheer. They're doing video tryouts to where she's gotta record it and send it in and all that. We just watched her do the Washburn fight song chant. So yeah, it's a little different, just a little different.
So we are all social creatures. So I think what you gave us is great, because this is a whole perspective that I had not heard. I know Tavian struggles. I know the struggles of a lot of my clients who are in high school, middle school, and elementary school, but this is a different perspective. I never considered the fact that a lot of the students feel like they're teaching themselves, college students no less. You would think that with all the resources that are available on campus, the tutoring and all of the labs and all of that, that it would transition much smoother. And I know for Tavian, it did. It just wasn't, the time was an issue for him. But for your girls, you're saying that they feel like that they're teaching themselves and they're doing things that, I mean, I don't remember a movie I watched in December, so please don't ask me any questions, especially expecting a grade. Now, is the expectation for them that their grades are frozen as well, so their third quarter grade will be their final grade and they have the opportunity to increase it, or are they actually working towards getting a grade for the final quarter of the college year?
You know, I'm not sure. I did see where Tonice had posted one of her grades from, because she had a test. So I'm assuming maybe they're still working towards
A final grade.
Yeah.
Because I'm in class right now as well, and they haven't cut us any slack. No, you are supposed to be here this day, this time. You're supposed to turn in assignments. I had a video meeting with my professor, and it's one of our tasks that we have to click every week. All of our assignments show up on a list, and as you do it, you click it and it disappears. Well, I didn't click that one, so I'm continually getting emails from the registrar saying you missed this assignment. I didn't miss the assignment because I set up the meeting. I know I was at the meeting, my professor knows I was at the meeting, but because I didn't click it, the expectation is I missed that assignment. And so the registrar is bugging me, and I'm going to have to send them an email and say, look, we had the meeting and I was there. So for us, the expectation is you're going to do your classes. Like K-State gave them the pass-fail option. We didn't get that. We didn't get anything. We're here for you is all we got. Keep doing your work. We're here for you. That's the best that we got. So there you go. So before we go any further, I want to get Miss Keybird in here because she works with little bitties. And I want her to share some insight and some wisdom on how she's been handling the families that she's worked with, who's got all the little bitties plus the bigger ones at home. And what have you been seeing, and what have you been telling parents to help them out?
Hey, everybody. First of all, I am just elated that I am in a group of women that truly care about the welfare of their kids. So you guys are in there, you're making sure that they're getting their assignments. You're making sure that they're having so many hours doing whatever it is, whether it's reading or math or just connecting socially, which is awesome. Unfortunately, a lot of the families that I work with, not only when it's coronavirus time, but anytime, they just don't have those foundational things. So my heart goes out to my kids who don't get that anyway. And I know at this time they're just lost. And just hearing you guys talk about how, you know, they have to go on the last semester's grades and everything. I'm thinking about those that are, that's all the education they're going to get. In regards to how, you know, they give them the assignments and say, it's up to you to do. My heart just goes out to them because I know I do. I know not only work with the little bitties, but I do an after school program where I'm literally sitting there with first and second graders that cannot do, like, if there's an alphabet and there's letters missing, they can't in their mind say, oh, H, I, you know, they have to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And for me, it's like crazy. But I realize that if I have to take that extra step to help them, that's what I'm going to do, because this may be the only chance they have. So for me, this is just as stressful. They're not my kids biologically, but we were on a pattern and progressing to where we were really on track. So now we've got 6 months where they're not going to get, and it's going to be like starting all over again where they were behind anyway. So for me, it's stressful. I just think about them, and I really, you know, I put an extra effort in to try to get them to where they are, even though they're not mine. I want them to have, they can never go through life and say they're around me and say that nobody cared. They can't. I don't care. It doesn't matter what's going on at home. They will never be able to be around me and say, nobody asked me how I was doing or how I felt, or try to give me some advice, or gave me a little candy on the side and told me, don't tell nobody, you better do this. You know, they're not going to be able to do that. So I take pride in working with those kids. I also have teen parents in my other job where I work. And believe it or not, every one of them that I talked to, I said, how are you doing with school being out? And they don't like it. Mm-hmm. Even though they may have not been as dedicated as they could have or should have been, they don't like it. Maybe they didn't like getting up in the morning, but right now they miss it. And I feel for them because several of them are seniors. They don't know what's here nor there, so they're kind of lost. And so I'm trying to give them that support piece for them as well as their children. And they're struggling right now. So, you know, they said they didn't like school or didn't want to be there, but now that they don't have it, and some of them are going to have to go into the real world. It's not going to be going back to be a senior next year or a junior and get back to that routine or some type of structure. Now they're adults. I mean, they're going to be adults thrust, and it's scary for them. My job is to make sure that any resources that I can give them, they're still available, and that I can try to see them through this. Like I said, for me, a lot of my frustration is that I know a lot of my kids aren't getting anything. Their parents aren't seeing to it that they read. Their parents aren't seeing to it that they have a certain amount of whatever. So I'm just listening to you guys talk. I'm like, yes, they got it. That's my girl. What, you know, because you guys know the value of it. You know, maybe when we were in school, we did not, you know, really see the value. Why do we got to do this? But now that we know, we want the best for our children. And not only do we want the best, we're going to see to it that they get it. They don't have a choice. You're going to get up and you're going to do this. And sometimes it just takes that old school thinking that mother knows best or father knows best. And I just encourage you guys to keep doing what you're doing with your children, because if you don't fight for them and support them, they'll be lost and somebody else will give them some advice. They said, wrong voice, wrong choice. That's oftentimes what happens, is because if we're not putting in the time to feed our own, because all of us are in that field where we're giving to somebody else constantly. And it's so easy to forget about our own. We're tired. We're tired of fooling with folks by the time we get home, and it's this one, that one. And it's so easy just like, girl, anybody got time for that. You know, go on. But I'm so glad that you as educators or working social work or whatever it is that you do, that human connection is still there. And you have a passion. Some people got more passion for everybody else than their own. And there's no way that's not going to happen to me, you know, with me. So to see you guys just wanting to do for your children and not depending on the teachers and everything. There's a bunch of memes and jokes going on right now, but I think it's funny, but it's the truth, because, you know, a lot of times we put so much into what the teacher should be doing for our kids. And I work at a center, and I've had parents come up trying to, you know, front me about their kid, but see, they don't know Miss V. I sat there and I listened. I said, so how do you normally handle this? Because this is not behavior just that bruised from nowhere. Apparently they're doing this, some kind of way. So how do you normally have? Well, they don't. Okay, so then if they're doing this and it's out of the norm, you need to ask them why. Because this is a volunteer thing, So if they're going to be here, there are certain rules and regulations and everything that have to be, put in place. And some of them think I'm kind of strict, but that's the way it has to be. I said, do you do that at home? And they go, no. I said, well, I'm going to teach you how to be outside of home. So it takes all of us, each and every one of us. You may think that what you do does not matter, but I guarantee you there are kids inboxing me trying to be Facebook friends. No, I'm not trying to be a Facebook friend. They want me on Messenger. No, I'm not Instagramming with y'all. I have enough of that. But just keep doing what you guys doing. I mean, there's just a variety of things that go. And then I struggle myself. Now, I'm single up in this house, and I'm okay with it. But when you tell me I have to be here and I just can't, and I don't get to see the kids, I don't get to see the people. I mean, it's kind of a struggle for me as well. And even we got Zoom calls here, Zoom calls there. But that, this is the kind of stuff when I like to see my peeps and be able to engage and know. I know what they're talking about and I can relate. And I know you guys, and it's like, yeah, y'all get it. I'm not in this by myself. So you guys keep doing what you're doing. Like I said, there's just a variety of things. I have my own struggles because I'm as you can see, she told me to say one word and I said about 500, so I have to get that talking in somewhere. Y'all don't want me to go crazy, do you? So I got to talk to somebody. But it's not the same for everybody, but I truly think that the kids that I deal with are truly missing that structure and that, that connection, whether it be socially or interacting or just getting out of the house. So that's all I have to say, Tyra.
So I'm looking. Ramonda wants to talk. I'm telling her to use the chat feature in the room so we can get her messages. But I knew you had something. I knew you had some little jewels. That's why I'm so glad you showed up, Veronica. Anna popped in here. I'm not letting her get away. Where are your babies? Hold on, let me unmute you.
Yeah. She's talking to him. I can see her.
Yes. Oh, yes. You have me muted, but you would hear from the babies to the dog, because even my dog is adjusting to now us being home, people walking by,
Yeah.
should be a whole other segment, pets.
I'll work on it.
It's been really, really hard. I really appreciate these comments because a lot of us that do feel like we're putting a lot of effort to try to, do the homeschooling, I often feel so inept because it's like, the feedback that sometimes I get from my girls, and then they're littles,